So let's talk about how these Lions players performed against the First Nations Pasifika 15. A really close game in the end, with the Lions actually holding on towards the end, getting the win, but the First Nations Pasifika team really got their second wind once. Kinghorn gave away an interception once, Ryan gave away some penalties, then they really grew into the match and were looking really good. To start with, the Lions were cutting them apart, and Pasifika were looking like the scratch team they were, and the coaches looked worried in the box, but then they came to life and made a great game of it in the end, which is good because you don't want another blowout like we saw against AUNZ 15. So this was a good game in the end and really gave these Lions players a tough audition to try and get in this test team for the second test or even the third test. So I'm going to go through it with that lens and make a prediction as to what the test 23 will be. And if you want to make a prediction and try and win £1,000, then my starting lineup is running. It's not shut yet for the second test. If you predict the 1 to 15 exactly, you could win £1,000 outright or go into a small draw with others that got it right. There was no winner, I believe, from the first test because of that Byrne and Tom Curry selection, which no one saw coming, actually. If you can predict the second test, you could be a winner there. So use the code RugbyAnalyst on the drop-down, and all the details are in the description below. So let's go through these players. Pierre Schoeman needed a big scrummaging game and didn't quite get it. Tupu got the best of him a couple of times for a couple of penalties, so he's not going to be playing the second test, I'm pretty sure. Still a good player, but it's going to be Genge, is going to be Porter, I'm sure. 1-2. I mean, maybe they might swap around Porter and Genge, but I don't think so. Jamie George, however, I think has done enough to get on the bench. I think they want a reliable hooker on the bench. Kelleher, not quite so. It wasn't perfect for Jamie George with his line-out throwing. He got a lot of them, made some really good plays as well. Nearly created a try, but it was a forward pass. So not perfect for George, but I think he's shown enough. He's fit. His line-outs are excellent, so I think he goes in on the bench, not into the starting 15, but into that number 16 slot. Finlay Bealham had a decent showing, but again needed probably to monster the scrum and didn't quite, so I don't think he gets in. I think it's still going to be Furlong and Stewart. The second rows, they played the full game, I believe, and they were absolutely blowing at the end, and they really put it about. Ryan was smashing absolutely everything, got a nice counter-ruck, a lot of tackles, but then did get a yellow card by some offsides, by tackling off the ball, so just too excited. I don't think he's getting anywhere near the test 23, but he gave it his all. Now, if Big Joe McCarthy is injured for that second test, I would love to see Scott Cummins come in because I thought he had another brilliant game. Good in the line-out, big tackles, big counter-rucks, big and physical. He's the obvious like-for-like replacement for McCarthy. Prediction-wise, I'm not sure he will get in. If McCarthy is fit, I think it stays as it is. If he isn't, I think Chesham goes into the second row, and they've got Byrne there to cover second row anyway, so I think they go 2 back rows on the bench if McCarthy is fit and Cummins doesn't actually play, but I do hope he plays in the third. Whatever. Jack Morgan, interestingly, got taken off on 50 minutes. I think he was fit, and in those 50 minutes he had an excellent game anyway. Low tackles, low carries, got some turnovers. Van der Fleer absolutely worked his butt off and played a really good game as well, but because Morgan was taken off and Van der Fleer left on, plus Morgan's excellent tour so far, I think he gets in on the bench, maybe in replace of Earl. Maybe Earl and Morgan play, actually. Earl came on and did really well, did what he does best very well, which is carry slightly wider out, make some good meters, so nothing wrong with Earl, but because Morgan's been so good, I think he does feature in the second test, maybe those 2 back rows on the bench. In fact, I do think that might well happen. Okay, then we have Van der Fleer, like I said, had a really solid game, but I don't think he's getting in on that second test, maybe the third. Pollock, an interesting one actually, didn't get his hands on the ball out wide, but worked really hard, made some tackles, was annoying as well, started a bit of a fight, which I'm sure will start plenty in his career, got some turnovers, used in the line out quite a lot as well. I don't think he's going to get in the second test because there's so many good back rows, but it would be great to see him featured in that third test. Then into the back line, and a really strong audition from Ben White, as we thought he probably would. His kicking is superb. It's better than Alex Mitchell's. Maybe Mitchell is better in broken field. In fact, I think he is. And it's going to be a choice of which one do you want. Do you stick with the continuity of Mitchell, which I think they probably will? Would I go for Ben White on the bench? I think maybe, because his kicking is that much stronger. If he doesn't play the second test, he's another one who I think really deserves to play in the third. I think I probably would actually play Ben White. Not that Mitchell's played poorly, but I think that extra kicking would really help. Finn Smith, his best game of the tour easily, and really moved the ball around well, kicked a lot better as well. Was it enough to get in the test team? I really don't think so. A lot will depend on Marcus Smith, who I'm pretty sure would have carried on in that second test, but he did go off with an HIA, so it depends on that. If he's fit, I think he plays in the second test. He's had a decent tour, come off the bench and done well. And Owen Farrell had a fairly solid game. He's a good passer and a good kicker, but that was kind of all of what he was doing. So it's kind of 210s, and Pasifika was starting to read that a bit, and I think Australia will read that as well. So if you want to play 210s, fine, and you have Owen Farrell there as a 12 option. He hasn't played 10 yet for the Lions, which is an issue if you want him on the bench as well. I don't think he will come in on the bench unless Marcus Smith is out. If not, Marcus Smith plays. But if you want to play 210s, Farrell is an option. But also, we don't have a huge amount of pace out wide unless you play Darcy Graham. But he got injured in this game, which is a shame. And he was in tears on the bench because he knew this was his chance. And he started so well with a try, looking lively. So he's essentially out. Van der Merwe is big, he's strong, he scored a try, he makes ground, but goodness me, he's so upright in everything he does. He does worry me quite a lot, and we've seen in defence he is a worry as well, so I would leave him alone, even though he's very powerful and strong. So what would you do in the back three? The back three was the weak point in the first test. I think you need to make a change. Did Blair Kinghorn do enough? Well, those 2 intercept passes were a bit of a shocker. If you take them out, maybe he did do enough. He is better in attack, that is for sure. I think that Keenan will be better for that first test. So I don't know if he'd take him out of the team, but I think Lowe is the one who had the worst game. So I think you make a statement in that back three and bring in Blair Kinghorn on the wing. Keep Keenan there at 15 and Freeman just at 14. There's not too many people pushing for those places on the wing. Maybe you could play Osborne or even Ringrose on the wing. That's an outside shout. But I think Blair Kinghorn will come in, maybe in for Lowe. So I'm saying Kinghorn on one wing, Freeman on the other, keeping Keenan at 15. And what do you do on the bench? Well, I think maybe they will keep Aki there and just keep it the same with Mitchell Smith and Aki. Ringrose, I think, is looking fit. He's looking really good, but then it leaves you a slight problem at 12, having a 13 on the bench. So maybe Ringrose does come in, maybe it stays at Aki. It's a tricky call. So anyway, that's my take on the Pasifika performances for the Lions players. That is my predicted 23 and maybe some other changes I would make. Let me know what you would do in the comments down below. If you want to try and win £1,000 by predicting the Lions team for the second test, get involved in my starting lineup using the drop down Rugby Analyst. That would be awesome. Anyway, guys, I will catch you next time.